Swimming is one of the most popular summer sports with millions swimming laps each morning and throughout the day. With pools closed due to COVID, what would you do if you owned a business that sold almost exclusively to swim teams? What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fervent 4. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? I'm Zach Miller, author of Anomaly, and with me today, I have my co-host, Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent 4 is a weekly show each and every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business no matter the climate. The Fervent 4 is powered by the SBDC, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling and resources. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help your business, head to startwheel.org/weekly. Nate Tschohl swam his entire life competitively. He coached at Old Dominion University, go Monarchs, and a few years back was annoyed that the swim industry was stuck in 1984. Meet SwimNerd. Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Tschohl.
What's up?
I decided we should start clapping when we introduce these people. That would be fun. Greetings. How's it going,
what's up,
Nate?
guys? Hey, man, everything's great. How are you? Hey,
Wonderful. Let's start with the hardest questions first. Your favorite swim destination length is how long?
The longer the better. So open water, I'd probably go with the open water, and maybe 3K.
3K. Okay, so for those
probably
that live in America, 3K is how long?
3,000 kilometers or 2 miles.
Still, we went in kilometers. Okay, so 2 miles. Your 2 mile time would take how long?
Well, we just did it at the ocean front last week, and I think I was 36 minutes flat. But we had a pretty good current, so it was pretty fast. Yeah, it was good. It was pretty fast.
Were you swimming with the current?
Yeah, it was with the current, yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so in a pool, how fast would you swim that 2 miles?
Probably 40 minutes.
Okay. Tim, your favorite, you don't swim, right? You know how to swim.
I swam as a kid and through high school.
Okay. What was your favorite swim?
Freestyle and breaststroke.
Okay. Like what distance?
Either the 50 or the 100.
Okay. And so a 50 free, how long would that take you?
Jeez. That's going back so many years now. 50 free, I don't know. I can't even remember. 30-something seconds.
Nate, what do you think you could have done then?
He probably broke 30 seconds. Most people can break 30 seconds in a 50-yard freestyle.
As a kid, yeah.
Yeah.
What would your time have been?
Me?
Yeah.
I think I went 22 something.
Wow. So that's actually
not
interesting.
Not as fast as you, I don't think.
No, I went like a 21.4 at some point. But what's interesting in that is that you could go fast in a 50 free and actually pretty quick in miles as well, which is unique, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. 22's not that fast. It's pretty fast if you're a girl. Yeah, the longer the race, the better I tend to do. Actually, the 5,000, we're doing the 5,000 swim at the oceanfront next month on the 23rd, I think. And I think I've won that one twice or 3 times in previous years, even against all the young people, just because it's so long. It's about an hour. And
so that's really, race.
Open water is so different, right? Open water is the best because every single time you swim, it's different. The currents are different. Are you being pushed out? Are you being pushed in? Is the current faster towards the shore, or further out past the break? Are you drafting off people nonstop throughout the race? Or are you conserving your energy to be able to sprint on home? The open water races are just so much fun because they're just always so different. When you go to a swimming pool, it's always the same. The wall's always going to be there. The wall's not moving. The water's usually not moving. So I like being in the natural elements. Maybe it's raining. Maybe you got a little bit of 1 or 2 foot chop and you can't really see anybody. And it's all mental. It's just we call it going into the darkness. And you're just Yeah, you're just turning it out. You're trying to keep that stroke rate nice and long, but keep turning it over. Just try to redline yourself so you're not going into anaerobic mode, but you're right there.
Very interesting. So tell me about what got you into swimming as a kid.
I grew up in a big family in the Coast Guard, so we all had swim lessons when we were little. But then my twin brother was like, I want to do it as a sport. So we started at Los Gaviotas in Great Bridge. It was called Seven Springs Serpents back then. That was our first swim team. Now it's called Chesapeake Golf and Country Club, I think.
Gotcha.
And all 5 of us were on the swim team. We got lots of pictures of us next to the pool in little Speedos, being little kids. The 5 Tschohl brothers and sister. That's how we got started. Just like most everybody, just a normal rec little summer league.
Yeah, summer swim team. And then so you continue to swim. Did you ever do year round in that?
Yeah, I tried year round like once or twice when I was younger, and I didn't last but like a couple of weeks. I just wasn't into like nonstop training. I like baseball and other sports, so I played all sorts of everything else till I really got into high school, and then I made the decision to swim for ODAC, full time. And even after my first year, I was like, this is bogus. I'm out of here. Still wasn't really in love with swimming yet, but I had improved so much. And I think that just kept me, when you see drastic improvement, this is one of the best things about the sport of swimming is that it's so easy to see your improvement, So, when you're a little kid, you realize real quickly that the hard work and showing up to practice all the time, never missing a practice really makes you a lot better. So, swimming's the best at that.
Even with swimming, I feel like I didn't realize it until recently, but it's just like a lot of those early mornings, as a kid, they sucked, think about it now. Just like in the winter, how cold it was. And, those are actually some big lessons learned.
My dad woke up at 3:45 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and drove me and one other guy to practice. Practice started at 4:40 until I could drive. And then you're waking up at 4:00, and I'm taking my little brother down to Fleet Rec in Norfolk, 30 minutes away, and we're swimming from 4:40 to 6, and we're driving back to Chesapeake taking him to school. And then you go to school, and then you leave school, and you go straight back to the swimming pool again, swim for 3 more hours. So there was a lot of long days. Swimming is not for the faint of heart.
That's one of the things that's so cool, hearing us talk about this now is that some of the lessons learned as a kid. I mean, it was like you didn't know what it was like to get tired. Your coach just told you, this is the set you're doing, and you did it. And I think after you won, you just waited for the next set.
Yeah, that's why it's so sad with coronavirus. Summer league swimming basically throughout all of America was just canceled. All the biggest, everybody pretty much. I don't even know if anyone's swimming. So, that means all those rec kids, which is far the majority of all swimmers, it's our feeder system into USA Swimming and into college swimming is the summer league swimming. And they had one whole year without any swimming. Now they're not going to get this one, so they're going to have a whole another year. So hopefully, if we can get things cleaned up and open back up next summer, well, those kids that swim one time a year just during the summer are going to be they're going to have missed almost 2 years, almost like 21 months of not being in the water at all. So it's hopefully we're lucky too, because swimming is you can be outside. It's way more safe to be outside. So a lot of people have moved outdoors, obviously. And we're not a contact sport. We're not touching each other. We're not wrestling. We're not dribbling a ball and passing the ball to each other and sweating on the ball and spitting on the ball. So we are lucky in that aspect. But, now the coaches all across the world they're on pool deck for like 8 or 10 hours a day because they have to, have small swim practices with just X number of kids. And so they're just like back to back to back to back to back. So it's a challenging time for the sport of swimming. There's a lot of, we'll see what happens. I mean, if the Olympics don't go off, I mean, it's really just going to throw another huge monkey wrench, into the whole entire system.
Yeah, people don't even think about the Olympics. That's supposed to be happening in a couple of weeks. It's not here. It's the one of the largest worldwide events, if not the largest worldwide events. Definitely with companies or countries competing. But I saw, I used to coach a swim team for about 9 years, the Sugarland Run Dolphins. I also coached another local swim team where I lived up north called the Rivercrest Rapids. No, Rivercrest Riptide, something like that. I only coached them for 1 year. But I saw that Sugarland Run is at least 2 days a week doing dry land, which no one really likes dry land anyway. But at least they're doing something, I guess.
Yeah.
It's hard because, that was that thing that people did during the summers. And I coached 150 kids, which is probably at least 100 families. I know you've coached a ton of kids as well, Nate, and older adults with your new team, the SwimNerd Masters, and Tim with your kids that are doing sports. Like, they want to do something. And so it's I don't know. I don't have kids, but I can't imagine what those individuals are going through, wanting that and being thirsty for that. It's got to be tough.
Yeah. And you don't race that much in swimming anyways. Now you're really taking away the racing. That's the whole point of it, so it's sad, but it's something we just going to have to overcome,
So are things opening back up? I know that on my running route, I pass a pool, and it looks like their practices start to back up every morning.
Yeah, so outdoor pools are going pretty hard. A lot of indoor pools are still not open. I think the biggest problem people are having was your swim team swimming out of a private school? Was your swim team, someone called me yesterday, this guy swims out of two swimming pools. One's a physical therapist. He's not allowed in there anymore. And one's actually a hospital. It was a rehab pool that they rented out, and they can't be in there anymore. So there's a lot of people that are just plumb out of the pool. But people are opening back up, and people are trying to get to the outdoor pools as quickly as possible. With Summer League swimming being canceled, the pools are still operating, and so people are trying to rent pools that typically weren't being rented, specifically by them. But yeah, I think everyone's kind of moved into the phase where June was, people were getting back. Sales finally started coming back up in June. And July's kind of like teetered off a little bit as people kind of got back. And now we're just trying to figure out, is the NCAA season going to happen? Doesn't look like it. Swimming is a fall sport, technically, with NCAA championships in March. NCAA is a huge market for me. Summer League swimming is a huge market for us. So that was gone. So is college swimming going to be gone? Are they going to be allowed to come back to campus and at least just train and not have meets? If that's the case, you still need pace clocks. We say this a lot, like with my other partners and our team, is we're super lucky because we're not something that people want. We're really something that people need. And that's one piece of advice I always try to tell kids that call me or email me to talk to me about Kickstarter successes. Make sure that the product is really helpful when the product it's a must, right? It's not like, oh, I really wish I had this. No, you need a pace clock at swim practice, period. Whether it's a little crappy pace clock that goes around and around that nobody can see, or if it's a really nice Bluetooth programmable pace clock, you can connect to your phone like our SwimNerd pace clock. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with that, can you describe to our audience a little bit more about what your pace clock is, how you came up with the idea, and go into that in more detail?
Yeah, sure. So I was coaching at Old Dominion, and it was end of the year. So, if you don't use your budget, you lose your budget. So it's time to go spend it all. And I bought these really expensive pace clocks. They were like $1,200. I bought this remote control that you're allowed to program. You were able to program sets into the clock. That was another $500. And then when I got it, there was this big manual. It literally looked like it was from the 1980s. You had to hardwire plug it in, and I couldn't even do 10/100s on 130. You literally needed like a little bit of a programming background to even program anything into the clocks. And that's when I was like, well, maybe we could just do a Kickstarter. And I never thought we could do hardware and software, but you can now. I mean, it's the internet. Global economy is a beautiful thing, and you can get anything done that you really want to set out to do.
And so as a swim coach, you had created a SwimNerd Twitter account. I believe it's the first thing to SwimNerd, right? Maybe you even had like a SwimNerd master swim team at that time. I'm trying to fill in the gaps here.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you had this audience that was growing. Then you, as a coach, decide, hey, I think this is, I'm using an iPhone. Why can't I figure out how to do something else in this sport that I love? I don't want to spend $1,300 on this stupid analog clock. And so you start to put things two and two together. And then the Kickstarter, you raise what, $65,000 or something like that because you had this idea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had a couple of ideas before the pace clock idea. We had a recruiting website that didn't really, the business model wasn't very good. We still have that up. It's still live. It's still really nice, and it's a free tool for people. We looked at making live meet results. So when a swim meet was going on, you could actually see it live on your phone. That didn't really pan out, even though now it's panning out now. And so, that's why we landed on the clock. And I had just been tweeting a lot under the name SwimNerd. That's kind of what Carol Withis at ODU had always told me. I was this huge swim nerd. I'd always be in her office talking about swimming against whoever we were swimming against and what our lineup should be, and who maybe we could stick in this event, and who I thought maybe they were going to swim in these events and to try to win. I just poured a lot into the Twitter, and then thought like, well, let's make something cool, that everyone could do. And being at ODU with those expensive clocks and knowing that they were so far behind innovation, that was like a clear cut. Look, if you can make a 3D movie on a MacBook Pro for $1,500, you should be able to make a clock count up or count down or do whatever you want for $1,500. So that was kind of the ethos behind the driving thought. And we did the Kickstarter. We had made like a prototype in this I found this guy on the internet somewhere in Rogersville, Alabama, and he made our first prototype, and it worked. And that prototype basically led us to the big Kickstarter success. And after that, it's just like, what's the next question? Find the answer. What's the next question? Find the answer, and just keep going down. Keep making the mistakes, and hopefully don't make them again.
What time frame was your Kickstarter campaign?
We launched it specifically during the 2016 Olympics. So 4 years ago, almost to the day. Next week will be 4 years since we launched it.
And I would assume that was probably a pretty big platform, at least from an attention standpoint. Did you have plans to leverage the 2020 Olympics?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. Spot on. So everything was planned around the Olympics. We always plan around the Olympics because we just know we're going to get a zillion eyeballs. We easily break 1 million impressions on Twitter during the Olympics in just a couple of days. So that's a big thing. We took a big leap of faith and jumped into this big contract, this big advertising contract for the Olympics. And then the Olympics don't happen. Instead, coronavirus happens, and you're paying all this money for something that's not doing anything for you right now. So it's been really tough. The coronavirus has been really nice on the business side not in terms of the actual business and stuff, but to be able to sit back and reflect and look at what you did wrong. I think we were all kind of a little fat and happy the last 5 years with the economy just churning and everything just seeming like nothing bad could happen. So yeah, it has been good to sit back and make sure that you're reevaluating everything moving forward. What should we not try to attack?
How do you look at that though, right? So I mean, there's plenty of businesses that are going through something similar, right? So like if it's not swimming, it's a restaurant, if it's or a retail store where people can't go in, right? Like pools are closed. Your customer is at a pool. They look at this clock that's there. You are spending some amount of money on advertising with this thing in the future called the Olympics. That is a big win for you. That can get millions of impressions for you. So how do you look at that and stay in a positive mindset, knowing that like everything that you want to happen at some point couldn't happen, right? And I guess at some point in there, things started opening up. And then you told me at one point, like, as long as pools stay open, we're good. But like, how do you go through that roller coaster of emotions, knowing that like, we don't know when pools are going to stay open or not. And we don't know if the Olympics are going to happen. All these other things that we forecasted or have planned. It's just, I don't know. Like, how do you run a business with the I don't know mindset?
Somebody said the other day, and I think I kind of needed to do this. They said, every time you think it's really, really bad, it's not that bad. When you think it's really bad, it's just not that bad, right? So I just try to keep my composure, keep trying to focus on other ways to not only push our stuff, but maybe continue to build and scale. So what I did was I kind of like, instead of trying to sell clocks to every single swim team that wasn't in a swimming pool, we sold pace clocks to another one of me, basically in a different part of the world, and we started adding extra distributors on. So we would sell a pallet of clocks to them wholesale, and now Canada is going to open up here shortly with a Canadian SwimNerd who's a Canadian swim coach who knows all the Canadian swim coaches, just like I'm in America. And we have the guy in Australia, we've got a guy in Taiwan who handles the Chinese market, and now we have a guy in Europe also starting up here soon. So that's what we did to kind of keep the ball rolling. But yeah, I mean it's not been fun. I mean, to be sitting inside your house, I had to cancel everything. I had to cancel my trip to China. I had to cancel my trip to Australia. I had to cancel all the trips to the ASCA convention, the College Swim Coaches Convention.
Right. And those are vacations. Those are places where you do business that have relationships.
Oh, the best. Those are the best.
Yeah. So your manufacturer is in China. You've had to go there multiple times. And then actually that might be an interesting point on the air is you tried doing it in the States, right? You tried manufacturing, born in the USA type of deal, but it was very difficult through the whole process of you traveling to different places. Just, it wasn't feasible. And so can you walk me through a little bit of that process of using China in that case?
It's just China's set up to take on little tiny guys that might be the next big guy. We're not set up to do that. Most of the electronics manufacturing that goes on around here, especially in our area, is obviously super highly sensitive, building electronic parts for Humvees and airplanes and aircraft carriers and whatever else. Not a specific clock manufacturer that all this company does is build clocks. So the price was just astronomical. You might find one person to do your PCB boards, but then you got to go find another person to do your case. And so it just made it like not feasible in terms of the economics. And so, yeah, I had actually been talking to this guy for a long time. And at that point, he was too small in his business. He's my age. He's got a little family just the same as me. And out of the blue, he randomly just had emailed me after the Kickstarter. And I said, you won't believe this, man, but I just, built built this Kickstarter and we raised all this money and we need to build a clock. And would you like to take it on? And he said, sure, we're big enough now. We have our own engineering team. We can help you out. So I just bought a plane ticket and flew over there the next week. And this is so crazy, Tim. Wait, it gets crazier. Okay, so I get an Airbnb. There's one Airbnb in all of the city of 10 million people. So I'm like, well, I don't know where this is relative to him, but it doesn't matter because it's the only one. So I booked it. And I sent my guy the address, and he calls me up and he's like, I don't understand, but you're you're telling me that you're staying like next door to me in the apartment complex, like literally like 12 feet away. And I was like, I don't know, man. This is what this lady told me her address was. And he was like, hold on. And he like went across 12 feet to the next door, knocked on the door and talked to this girl, Jolie. And she was like, yeah, he's staying with me. So lo and behold, I'm going to China. There's only one Airbnb in a city of 10 million people, and it's next door to the guy, the manufacturer's apartment. How does that happen? I mean, how lucky can I get? Right. So that first trip, I've never been to China. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm all by myself. I meet this random dude at an airport to pick me up. I'm so tired. I just fall asleep immediately when I get in this guy's car. I don't even know him. I'm just sleeping in the back seat by myself. But it was the greatest experience because I could wake up and be there already. And I was there at 7:00. We would have breakfast with his family, and then boom, we'd hit the factory. We wouldn't come home until 7:30 or 8:00 at night every single night. Those guys they pound the work. They crush it. The work ethic is insane.
Yeah, I mean, so like with that, so that's one. The question I have is: so you raised all this money on Kickstarter. How far into the product development were you? I mean, did you even have a sketch at this point in terms of what it is that you were looking for?
Yeah, because we had a prototype.
Okay.
But it looked pretty much like all the other clocks. It was a black clock with red lights, and it was 4 digits, and it just, it had Bluetooth capabilities, but it certainly wasn't a beautiful polished thing yet. And so we just brought all the stuff that we had done over to them, and we kind of combined forces, like literally on his kitchen table, and we got the first clock to work at like 11:30 at night with one of Otto's engineers and me and him at the kitchen table. And yeah, when you look at the prototype compared to what we have now, it's pretty funny.
For the person
it's in my office. It's like a little museum piece. All my prototypes from all the years are stuck somewhere on a shelf, like little trophies.
Trophies, yeah. So for that person that would say, I don't want to do business in China for whatever reason,
sure.
Like how did you have those feelings going into it? Did you or internationally in general, how did you handle the stealing aspect of a different place? Like how all that craziness that so many people will bring up as the issue is to not stay local, if you will, local to the.
Yeah, I mean this is 2020, man. It's like the global economy is it's the same reason why we have engineers in China, we have developers in Venezuela, we have we try to go find the best person for the job rather than maybe we could do it here. It just doesn't. That's great if you're maybe like a restaurant and you're trying to source local food. That makes a lot of sense to get it local. But for us, it just doesn't make any sense. But we did look at India really hard. I just think that like China's manufacturing capabilities they're too far in front. And when you look at them and you open up the 2 clocks, the difference is very noticeable. Almost like you're looking in a time machine. You're looking at what I was looking at least the Indian made clocks just looked like they were old. like old capacitors, transistors, like when I was a kid in technology class, and you look at the boards of now, and these are all surface mounted LEDs. I mean, they're so thin you can't even see them. They're tinier than your thumbnail, and they're super bright, and they don't give off any heat. And we put a special glue on these PCB boards to make them completely waterproof. They're penetrable to water. Obviously, we needed that being in swimming pools. So, yeah, the manufacturing capabilities of China are just outstanding. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't be careful. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff. There's a lot of bad products out there, and there's a lot of corners that get cut. There's a book that I think everyone should read if you're looking to manufacture something in China. It's called Poorly Made in China. And I don't want to paint everyone with the same brush, but the guy just kind of talks about things that he's seen and heard about from a lot of other people, and they're kind of the same kind of strategies, and you see them. You see the patterns happen. For example, one thing that they like to do is once they got a pretty good product, right, they'll start to try to cheapen it down. So let's just take, for example, the side of our clock. This is like really super hard plastic mold, right? Well, you could start using recycled plastic. So then all of a sudden these things become brittle, and they're not very good and tough and strong like this, and because they're making the materials as cheap as possible. There's just a lot of little things like that you just got to be careful about and aware of. But for the most part, man, I love China. I love my experiences over there. I love my manufacturer. There's so much crap in the media. They're just like us. They have families. They want to do what's best for their family. They have business. They want what's best for their businesses. And I think ultimately for me, it was the most important part was to go over there to make sure that I had a personal connection. Otto's not my manufacturer. Otto's like my guy. He's been to Virginia Beach. We've had crabs at Dockside. We've been into the ocean together. He's been on my kitchen table working with me. I've been on his kitchen table working with him. I was there for his to see his little kid grow up. And then the second one came along. So it's nice to have that personal relationship. And that, I think people should strive for that if they're going to do business in China. Go over there and learn and meet. They're going to take care of you. You're not going to be able to do anything when you're over there except for enjoy yourself.
I think relationships in general is what you're getting at, right? And so meet the people that are going to be a part of what you're doing. And I think that's incredibly valuable. And I think clearly that's been good for you going over there, learning that that culture. Same could be if it was a partner that was across the street or across the hall from an apartment, right? It doesn't matter. Meet those people and be kind to them the way that you would want them to be to you. And I think that's incredibly valuable. So what was your degree at ODU in?
Criminal justice.
Okay, so I thought it was something ridiculous. Okay, so
yeah, it is.
Knowing that you are now a businessman, that you own your own business and you've gotten into the world of manufacturing, like how do you learn any of that to have any kind of substance to know that I have like any kind of like standing ground? Do I know that what I'm talking about, right? So you're talking about this board that you just showed us, right? The pace clock that like, I'm not a manufacturer. Tim's not a manufacturer. He knows nothing about that. Nate, you're not a manufacturer, but you can understand. Yeah. Understood business. You've gotten millions of impressions on Twitter. You've created tons of relationships, right? Like, how do you learn all these things when it's not necessarily, well, it's not what you went to school to do, and it's not really what you went out to do in general? Like, how do you become that stuff?
It's every day. You get to learn every day. There's so much free stuff out there. It's the sharing economy. all of it's laid out. And I listen to, I don't know how many podcasts I listen to, a lot, multiple every single day. A bunch of them I'll just go in one ear, out the other. But there's lots and lots of great marketing podcasts. There's lots of great podcasts about Bluetooth. There's lots of great podcasts about advertising. Obviously, everything kind of started with Hatch. I really enjoyed going down to downtown Norfolk to go meet a bunch of people that were already kind of in it, and to see how they've progressed. That's like where I met Eric Olson and Jeremy Johnson and all these little business owners and entrepreneurs in kind of the tech space around here, and you learn from them. I mean, I talk to you all the time, just to bounce things off. It's always changing. Things are always moving. It's not going to just be like set it and forget it. That just never happens. So it's nonstop. You're just always trying to do marketing hacks. You're trying to find the next way to sell more, make a big splash or whatever. Now we've partnered with an Olympic swimmer, an Olympic coach to create a podcast. And so what I do is I produce the podcast, I cut the podcast up. Just like Tim will do with this one, I'll do the same thing with all of Brett's podcasts. I write the blog for the podcast. We push it out through everywhere. And that has helped give us unlimited content for people to consume. Just in the same way that I'm consuming content to try to figure out, like, what's the best. I just switched from Intercom to Tidio, and I really think Tidio is a lot better. How'd that come about? Well, my brother-in-law did it, and we talked for a long time, and you're just constantly trying to upgrade and learn.
Yeah, what you're describing, which is so awesome, man, is you're putting in your reps. I mean, every day you got to put in your time, and you make less mistakes than the day before. You learn something new to implement the next day. But I mean, you put in your reps and you're learning.
Yeah, consistency is super key, as you know. I mean, that's what made the Twitter account so nice, right? People are like, "Oh, how'd your Kickstarter do so good?" It's like, I tweeted 10 times a day about swimming every single day for 4 years leading up to the Olympics. And I gave everyone what everyone was thinking about, what they wanted, a really great clock for a lot less money. Yeah, I mean, we're still doing those reps. Now it's 2020. So for 8 years, basically, almost 8 years to the day, we've been tweeting every single day about swimming.
Yeah, I mean, I like, this is a bad example for that shirt, but Tim, what shirt are you wearing right now? What's the brand?
J. Crew.
Okay, J. Crew. So J. Crew is likely a business that is at least 50 years old, right? If not longer, right? And so that compounding interest is what we're talking about, right? That frequency is what matters in this case. And so the more that you do something, the more likely it is for someone to see you over and over and over again. And so these people who do something for 1 minute and are like, "Hey, I did it," and then it doesn't work, they're like, "Well, I quit." And it's like, hold on, like, frequency is really, really freaking important. And
now more than ever with all the algorithms.
Sure.
I mean, you should be posting 10 times a day on every single platform if you want even just a little bit of your audience to see it. And that's something I struggle at. I need to be better at pushing out more content, and we have a lot of content. It's really difficult, especially when you don't have someone to pay just to post on social media, because you don't feel like it's converting, right? But it's part of your brand. It's part of your everyday touch. We're still around. We just want to be one of the biggest cheerleaders for the sport of swimming. We want to help the sport of swimming grow, and that's basically the only thing that we can focus on. It's those two things and the customer, and that's pretty much the three pillars of what we care about, and that's it.
Yeah, the other thing that I would like people to pick up on is the fact that sure, you weren't an expert in product development, but you took ownership of that process. You flew to China to work side by side with somebody. You knew what it was that you were looking for, and you took ownership of it, and you held those people accountable for everyone that you worked with. You didn't have all the answers, but you put the work in to learn what those answers should be, and you made it happen. And so many people just think they can send everything off to China or to India, and a couple of weeks later, they're going to get this product back, and then all of a sudden, it's going to fly off the shelves, and that's not the case.
Oh, they make you think like that. All these kids on TikTok showing you how easy it is to go to Alibaba and flip some product, and I made $38,000 this month. I'm sure that probably happens. It's just pretty rare. I mean, there's just so much work that goes into it, especially if you're starting at square one and you're just a big zero. I mean, you got no social media following, you got no search engine optimization. Your whole breadth of living is just focused on paid advertising and clicks, I guess.
So how many pieces of pizza do you think Dave Portnoy had to eat before
the pizza reviews got popular?
Yeah.
He said he eats pizza every single day, so I don't.
Probably not as many as you would think, because he had already done Barstool. But Barstool is a 20-year-old business, so had he not done that and just the pizza, probably not as quick.
Yeah, that's a great point. Talking about Barstool, like I probably just found out about Barstool 5 years ago. But they've been around. How did I miss them for 15 years? It's like,
but that's why frequency matters, right? And then you got to find that one in.
Yeah. And not to jump around, but I wanted to go back because, Tim, you said something that I think is so important, that I read this article about this other entrepreneur that's in the swimming world. He makes swimming fences. He put fences around swimming pools, and he wrote this article about how, like, one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do, or people that want to take the next step, they just can't take the next step because they don't trust them or they don't trust themselves. And it takes a lot of trust to be like, I'm just going to fly up on a plane and go to China and meet some random dude and hope it all works out. But everything along the way, everybody from all of our developers, all of our freelancers, all of our design crew, everyone that we work with, you have to have it's about trust, right? And without trust, you got pretty much nothing. So I think that is a really important thing that you were trying to highlight.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, I'm really big on team sports in terms of interviewing people for positions. But at the same time, the thing that I love about swimming and running or biking is the fact that, I mean, it's you and the effort that you put into it to determine what your results are going to be. And so it's trusting your training and knowing when it comes for the meet or the race that you're going to reach back and that you put in your reps and that you're going to perform. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, I mean, you've got to trust yourself, and it comes from putting in those reps.
That's right.
So
Speaking of reps, I've been wanting to say this for several minutes now. So fitness is something that your entire world is around, right? So you grew up swimming and many other things. Now you've created a business that's directly to a sport. What do you think about swimming and business, or fitness and business, and the correlation between the two and the cycles of that? Like, what are your just general thoughts on that? I mean,
I don't know. Look, when you dedicate yourself to something, whatever it is, it might be the piano, you got to put 20 hours in a week if you're going to be the best. Same thing with swimming. So anyone that has had the opportunity to grab a hold of something that they've enjoyed and give it their all to see how far they can, as an individual, take whatever that is, whether it be swimming or playing the piano, that's kind of where it's the same, right, with the business. So I get up at 6 o'clock pretty much every morning on the dot without setting an alarm. My body just wakes up at 6, and I'm like pumped. I just jump out of bed. I'm ready to go. I'm on people say, like, don't get on your phone. Bullshit. I'm on my phone immediately. Did I sell anything in the middle of the night? That's my first thing. Do you use
an alarm clock, Tim?
No.
I don't either. People are like, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I haven't set an alarm since my last swim practice. There's just
I have noticed though that like it's easier in the summer because the sun comes up, I guess, a little bit. But
Yeah.
like I training for my race that actually just yesterday got canceled, so I still have to do my race solo now. I've been going on Saturdays to do like 3 hour bike rides, but I found that I have to wake up early. I have to be up like an hour, 90 minutes beforehand because I have to get food in me. And so it's getting harder. I'm waking up a little bit later every day, not intentionally, but I'm like, I might need to set this on Saturday so that I actually wake up early enough to get some food in me so I don't screw up. But
yeah. Well, it makes sense because I guess I always just say like if the sun's up, I'm up, and when the sun goes down, like I'm starting to shut down. I have a hard time to get past 10 o'clock. But once it starts, I'll start sleeping in a little bit because the sun won't come up until 7 or whatever. And so I'll probably start sleeping in a little bit just because of that.
Nate, I got a question for you real quick. My sample size is small, but I was amazed when I was going to business school how many swimmers in high school and college turned out to be triathletes. With your contact with a number of swimmers, is that true from what you have found?
No, actually, I think the triathlon world is like a lot less just like people with the swimming background. Sure, they probably swam summer league or maybe swam high school or whatever, but they weren't. Most of us, like anyone that I swam with at ODU, I don't think any of us turned out to be triathletes. Not to say you can't. I mean, Matt Sharbo swam at George Mason. He's from Virginia Beach and was on. I mean, he was a professional triathlete for 15 years. He just retired last year. So
a lot of people's discipline is swimming in triathlon, right? Most people are freaked out at the swimming portion of it, where like me or Nate, and maybe even you, Tim, like it's like, the pool is like.
And that's where at least the people that I talk to, they're like, I mean, swimming's the hardest part. So if you grew up a swimmer, then that's fine. And as you grow up, there's less and less place to swim, and they still had that competitiveness within them. So the natural progression from them was to pick up running and biking, and then start doing the tries.
My work is the running.
Yeah, Zach, I haven't seen you at swim practice lately.
Haven't been to one swim practice.
Oh yeah, crazy. Yeah, I've never even done a triathlon, Tim. I don't know why, and I still run. I'm not a great runner, but I'm an okay runner. I don't know. I never got into the bike thing, and it's pretty expensive.
When COVID started, how did you have any like super down moments, and how long did they last for?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of saw it. I don't want to say I saw everything coming, but like we knew way ahead of time about coronavirus because we talked to China every day. Yeah. So I think what surprised us was it came over so fast and just spread like a wildfire. But yeah, I mean, when everyone's just shut down and there's March, the end of March, all of April were just miserable. That just went from 100 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour. There was everything got canceled. NCAA championships got canceled.
Did you think about closing?
Think about quitting?
Yeah.
No. What kind of question is that?
I love your reaction too. Like, did you ask me that question? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Nah, dude. Quitting's not in my vocab. I don't know. I think for like 30 days there, I pretty much just cried. I just sulked. Probably.
So when you expanded into different countries, was that to get rid of existing inventory, or are you currently?
No, that's all new. Yeah. And actually, it's kind of weird. So when coronavirus happened, we had just got our biggest shipment ever to America. It arrived like March 10th or something. So my entire garage was completely filled from the roof to the floor. And we still have some, but we're just kind of moving through it a little bit slow. But moving into all the other countries, what you can't do is you can't build something in China and bring it to America and then sell it to, let's say, the Canadian guy. And the reason you don't want to do that is because you're paying for the shipping, obviously, but we pay really high import tariffs now because of President Trump's trade relationship with China. So it would not be good for me to pay the tariffs and then sell them and to ship them to Canada and then pay tariffs again. So everything comes straight from the factory. We ship straight directly to the person that we've kind of found to become the distributor for that specific market, that territory. So, yeah.
When you've done this whole thing from your garage, your garage from your home, which is something that I think is very unique, where a lot of people say, I need to get an office. I need to do this. I need to do it the way that the world told me. I need to get, like, walk me through the whole process of not wanting to get an office, working from home, and still being able to get the job done.
Everyone, I think you want to feel like you made it when you have like your logo on a lighted up sign outside on Store Drive or wherever you put your office. You feel like you made it, but it's just a waste of money. I think now more than ever people know that with commercial real estate probably just going to go down into the tubes because you can work from home. Luckily, I've almost always worked from home. I sold insurance from a home office. I left the office left my office every day to go meet with clients and come back. So switching over to any of that, that was a zero burger, as I like to say, because it's my normal life. I have a problem turning it off, I think, like most people. And so I'm pretty much available until my eyes are closed. When I wake up at 6, I'm on the phone, and when I go to bed, I'm still probably on the phone. Like last night, I was talking to a customer in Hawaii. It was 10:30 at night, and I was just in my bed. But that's, it's 4 o'clock over there. It's what you got to do.
How have you thought about the possibility of scaling your pace clocks to move on to like track events or something like that?
Yeah, we've looked at other industries for sure. I think the thing that continues to hold me back from jumping into a new arena is that, one, I love swimming. And number two, our focus is not just hardware, it's also a software component. So our focus is going to be scaling the software side of things. It is right now our focus is to scale the software side of things, and to open up a new revenue source through software as a service that's already pretty much attached to the clock, right? So the clock is now a super utility item, and the coach can write swim practices, share swim practices with their swimmers, so that the swimmer doesn't have to write in their logbook anymore like what they did. Coach Nate already sent it to you, and there can be communication and sharing within your daily swim practices.
So is that?
Go ahead.
So is that going super deep into that industry then, instead of taking what you have now and going just a little bit wider with different industries that do something similar, right? So running events, CrossFit, they all use some sort of clock that goes up and down, but instead of doing that, it's staying in your lane and going super deep on swimming that you feel very comfortable with. And is that the reason? Because you're comfortable, or because your expertise, it? Like, I think I just want to start being an air traffic controller, like boom, boom, boom.
Well, I don't know which is harder, hardware or software, but there seems, hardware is difficult. It costs money for this clock. What if something happens to the clock? You have a software issue. Someone's clock's not working. Someone dropped the clock. Now their case is broken. They need to send it in for service. There's so much stuff that goes into hardware that's not in the software side of things. And the software side of things, it's where a lot more revenue can come from, especially if the clock is kind of this, like I said, utility. I like to use the word utility. We're trying to infiltrate every single swim coach in the world. We're trying to get clocks everywhere, but more importantly, we're trying to get all the people that are utilizing the clock on the app. So instead of getting into more hardware and selling double-sided running clocks to all the timing companies like J&A Racing up the street, who's got, I don't know, 10 or 20 clocks. That just is going to take away a lot of my capital and my time to then fix the clocks and service the clocks. And I'm not ready to open up another business unless I was going to raise money for that. And that's still just a hardware idea, the running part. I haven't really any understanding of what track and field coaches want their app to do or how to compare their times. We just have, in the swimming world, we just have so much that we can do. And right. I know all of it because I'm so deep into it. I know all the timing systems and all the outdated technology and where we can go next, I think. So I'm sticking to swimming.
In that same vein, how do you understand how big a market is for something that so many people don't know?
You don't, I think a lot of, I've done pitch contests and I've done these little things. You go to these incubators and you pitch, and we never really got anywhere, a lot of them. And I think it was because it was hard people wanted to know, like, oh, how big can this get? It's like, I don't know how many people we can get in Australia, but there's a lot of people in Australia that like to swim. They have 1,500 50-meter pools, and they need this. This is something that really still hasn't been fully completed to do the entire circle, so that everyone that's involved is really paying attention to every single swim practice.
Yeah, it's that aspect is tough, and I think that you've hit your numbers and your metrics to validate everything that you're doing and that you're on the right course. But I will say I'll be one of your first customers if you do branch out into running, because man, it is such a pain point for me when I'm out there doing my runs. I mean, literally counting on my fingers, trying to keep track of how many 800s that I've done.
Right. Yeah.
It is. It's just a nightmare, and I can't believe that no one has solved that problem yet.
Yeah, we've had some people, ask us about clocks, and they've used them for running. It's just, I think there's so many apps that use GPS and so many different things that I don't even know about because I'm not involved in that world. It seems like clocks just aren't as big as you think that they would be. I guess because everyone's just got an iWatch or a Fitbit, or all those tools are so easy to get running statistics from, and they're pretty valid. Swimming is so hard, right? You put your hand in the water, it loses the connection to the GPS. If your hand's in the water for too long, I mean, I think most of those watches are not completely accurate. So swimming is still very hard to track every single stroke.
Right. And I think that the watches and the Fitbits probably satisfy 80% of the people. But like swimming, if a running workout could be doing 16 800s on 330s, and then a 330 recovery in between, and it gets mentally, you're so fatigued from the workout that you're like, it's so hard to remember, where you're at in the workout. But
well, we can plug that into the SwimNerd pace clock with just a couple clicks, and boom, 16 800s on 330, no sweat. Boom, boom, done.
Because I think the meticulousness of a swim practice is harder, though, because it's a shorter distance, right? And so in the run world, a mile there's a little bit more of a variable there.
But it's all time, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, 330 doing 800s is like it's saying I'm gonna do 8 200s freestyle on 330. It's the same time. It's just not close to the same distance. Sure. Yeah, I mean it's all the same stuff, right? It's reps and intervals. There are some interesting use cases. We sold a bunch to Amazon, actually. Like one warehouse guy found my clock on Amazon and bought it and loves it because he keeps track of his warehouse guys. And they bought a bunch more. So
Oh, they like the clock for non-swimming reasons.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that just want a clock that you can actually program into. There's a lot of competitors, especially in the gym clock space. They're a lot smaller. And what makes our clock really unique is the fact that it's pretty much 100% waterproof. You know, you can hose it down. A lot of coaches have accidentally dropped it in the pool and pulled it right back out and tweeted about it and said, like, clock's totally fine, no problem.
The pool
You
I've
know,
been swimming at, they use one every morning.
Wow.
oh, where are you at? Oh, you're at Great Bridge Hickory YMCA.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tide swim teams out there. They got a nerd. Yeah, I mean, anytime you see a green pace clock, that's ours. And there's been some people that are like, well, we don't want to get your clocks because they're not red. And I'm like, I don't really care. I'm not going to make the same looking clock as anyone else. I want them to be green. Green means go. Red means stop. I'm trying to go fast. So that really helped us differentiate ourselves. And now when you're scrolling through Instagram or Twitter or whatever, you just see green clocks in the background of all these people's videos of their swim practices because we continue to, I think we have over 1,000 clocks on pool decks now throughout the whole world. And every day we get a few more on deck. So hopefully we can just keep on trucking, you know, and hopefully we can move into some other things like track and field. I mean, I have looked at it specifically. You know, they really need a double-sided clock that's waterproof, that needs a battery. They need the whole thing because they're outside in bad weather. It's the timing companies really that seem like they buy a bunch of them. So, but right now I just want to focus on swimming. It's my love, you know.
That makes sense, and that's focus on doing one thing really well.
Yeah, that's right.
What about the branding aspect of that, right? You talk about SwimNerd and how that kind of came about with your old advisor or someone at Old Dominion University. She called you a swim nerd. And then you had colors that were unique to you and you stuck with it, even when some said, hey, we'll buy if it's this color. Like, talk roughly about the branding aspect of what you've done and why you were so pushy in that and being a little different.
I don't know about being pushy, but brand is a brand is an interesting thing, you know, because you want to be able to look at the logo and instantly know what it is. You want it to be being a swim nerd is a thing that everyone says. It's using that terminology, you know that you're on the inside. So when people hear swim nerd, they kind of get a little joy in their hearts, I think, because there's so many of us out there that really do love swimming. So I was surprised that no one actually had created the company. I think we were just, you know, it's still pretty early. It was early, like 8 years ago when there wasn't much. I mean, heck, at that time, there was only like one swimming website that really produced like news media. Now Swam has gotten humongous. But yeah, I think we were just lucky enough. Like like I see swimprice.com up there. We got that URL. I don't know how we got that URL, you know, but we go to SwimPrice twice a day, every day, you know. So yeah, the branding, I think we just gotta what? Oh, it's
ridiculous that swimpractice.com was not available. I mean, that's
stupid. Yeah, but it just shows you how far behind swimming still is, right? I mean, we've been testing out a live meet results software, and this will be like the first time where like most of these swim meets are actually thrown out into the cloud and the times are there, so you have a running timer. So instead of seeing the results after the fact, you're watching the results come in. So if there's 8 people in a lane, when they touch the touchpad, the splits pop up. And so you know who's in the lead and what the person's name is and what lane they're in, what place they get, and what their splits are. And that's something I've hounded swimming as a sport over since the beginning of my Twitter days. Even when I've traveled the world, I've gone to the World Aquatics Convention and I've stood up and I said, guys, I just don't understand how you're trying to market a sport without marketing the names and the times of the freaking people swimming. Like, what are we doing? Like, can we just get names and times? Like, can we start there and then maybe worry about getting into some fancy stuff?
You sound very passionate about that.
Well, that's the problem with the sport, is that a lot of the people that got into it to build these products, they don't have that passion and they never innovated. So swimming's been stuck in technological times. I'm talking about switching COM ports here. Like, it is ancient analog plugins all across everywhere. It's embarrassing, quite frankly, you know?
Where do you want to take this in 5-10 years?
I want to sell out. No, Jeff Bezos said 2 things happen to businesses, and he kind of actually said something similar yesterday in Congress. He said every business does one of 2 things. They either go out of business or they sell. And I don't want to go out of business. So at some point, I think we will sell the business. I want to just make sure it gets into really good hands. What I don't want to see happen is what's happened again in swimming, is that a swimming company pops up and gets bought by a private equity company. And the private equity company then just sits there and squeezes the ever-living profits out of this company and don't put a single nickel into R&D to help the sport grow and get it better. So in 5 or 10 years, I don't know how fast technology is going, but I want to get the swim practice marketplace figured out. That's my main goal. Make sure all the swimmers and coaches can communicate with one another, and just litter every single swimming pool with a SwimNerd pace clock, every single pool deck in every single country.
Love it.
Wonderful. Good luck over the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully you'll be on the one side that's positive instead of the other side that Jeff Bezos said. You guys can determine which one you want Nate to be at. Nate, appreciate you being on the show today. If you guys are interested in buying a SwimNerd pace clock, go to swimpractice.com. Spelled normally, that's the URL, swimpractice.com.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Olympics will happen in 2021 so you can tweet away like crazy.
Yeah, fingers crossed, you know, that something good comes out of the vaccine department or whatever. But yeah, so thanks for having me on, guys. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Nate, it was fun. Until next time, y'all have a wonderful week. Peace and pancakes, y'all.